The previous section of Dad in Canada for Army training has the last letter ending in May of 1943, as Mom and Dad were finally reunited in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I do not have any details about that time period in Halifax other than one of Mom's favorite places in the Maritimes was Peggy's Cove, Nova Scotia, as she had always told us how beautiful it was. We even gave Mom a small painting of Peggy's Cove as a Christmas present one year, and she really treasured it. In other letters, Dad talks about running into different people from the Halifax days, such as Don Ketchen. Mom and Dad continued to live in the Maritimes until he departed for England. There are no letters that cover this period of time and resume here as he arrives in England in September 1943. The ship that took Dad across the pond was the Queen Mary. I was fortunate to have toured the ship in 2004 while I was in the Los Angeles area, as they keep it docked as a floating museum at Long Beach, California. It gave me chills to think that I was walking the same halls that Dad did back in the fall of '43. Some explanation is now required regarding the nature of communication during this period of time. There existed telephones but could only be used locally and not overseas, as the first cross-Atlantic cable was not laid until 1955 to 56. There was cable service, but you could only send a line or two, and it was very expensive but very fast. That leaves writing letters as the way to communicate. But that was divided into three categories. You could write a regular letter of as many pages as you wish, straight mail, put it in the mail, and it would be received in Canada in about a month, sometimes longer. You could send an airmail, which consisted of writing on the front and back of a blue paper form. The backside also had an area for the address, so really your writing consisted of 1.5 pages. The blue forms were discreetly given out to the servicemen by their commanding officer, and so you were limited to how many airmails you could send. The airmails were much faster than regular mail and would take about 2 weeks before the recipient in Canada would receive it. A third way was to use aerographs. This was a form you would fill out on one side only. It was then photographed, and the film, which consisted of thousands of these pictures, would be shipped back to Canada for developing. The final product would resemble a print of 4 inches by 5 inches with tiny writing on it, which you would have to use a magnifying glass to read it. This method of mail was the fastest other than a cable and would take about a week to get through under the proper conditions. With all these methods of writing available, Dad had to come up with a system of writing to coordinate the letters in some sort of order. If he wrote a standard letter one day and sent an airmail a few days later and an aerogram even after that, they would arrive all in the reverse order, as the aerogram would be first, the airmail as second, and the standard mail as third. Dad decided to number his letters so that Mom could put them in a coherent order. Since I retyped his letters, you could not tell what form it was put on, so I added to the beginning part of each letter what form it was and what number it was. This should help in understanding why some letters are short and to the point while others are quite long.
Letter number 1, straight mail, September 2, 1943. Dear Margie. Well, darling, here I am across the pond. I am sending a cable tomorrow, have been unable to get one off so far. The trip was rather uninteresting so far as the actual crossing was concerned, but I really got a kick out of the train ride down to our camp. We got a glimpse of Ireland, and I realize now why they call it the Emerald Isle. I never saw such wonderful colorings in green with high rugged hills, purple with sprinkles of bright green. Scotland was very similar, but the green didn't seem quite so vivid. Heather predominated the upper slopes, the tops of the mountains rocky and jagged and surrounded by mist. All available ground is farmed, in small fields fenced in with stone walls or rail fences made of sawn boards, trees and bushes line the fences. We really got a laugh out of the miniature trains. The engine small, quiet but fairly fast. The coaches are small, clean and comfortable, but a little rougher than ours, although the roadbeds are leveler, which stops any sway. It's the box cars and freight that get me. They are only about 16 feet long. Their large box car would just hold a small Canadian car and no more. They are hooked together with a couple of links of logging chain. How long we will be in this camp is more than I can say. We are under canvas at present, which I don't care very much for, but will put up with it like the rest. There are a few things I didn't get before coming over. The worst thing is a box of laundry soap. Whether I can buy it at the canteen or not is a question. We can't leave camp today. One thing, dear, I will get you to send my cigarettes through the tobacco companies if you will. A small lot each month. So many of the lads here haven't got any and none are sent to them and one is expected to share up. Well, darling, I will write later when I can give more news, but I want to get this away tomorrow. You will probably be home by now, but if you get a chance, tell the folks I will be writing soon. All my love, darling. I will be impatiently waiting news from you. Bye bye for now. As ever. Roger XXXX. Number 1, CE, Canadian Army Overseas. Letter number 3, Airmail, September 5, 1943. Dear Margie. Well, dear, here I am in a little village just outside the camp. Walked out here this morning, had a beer at the pub, flat stuff, then been to the canteen for lunch and to write a few letters. The canteen is a very picturesque and typical English cottage set back in a grove of trees away from the village. The grounds around are like a park with trees, walks, gardens, lawns, tennis courts, etc. Just like the old bungalows we used to read about. The people around here are really nice, but I am afraid they have had their fill of the army monopolizing everything, especially when some of the lads don't know how to act and they certainly don't help the rest of the chaps out. Just think, a month ago this evening I was in Toronto with you. It seems a long time, too long. Well, dear, how are you feeling? Not too badly, I hope. One thing, take good care of yourself, Margie. That's the main thing. I wish I could be with you, it would help some. Where is Al? Is he still in Canada? Give my regards to the folks. Check the dates on the letter and the aerograph so I will know which one to use in the future. Also check on the cablegram date. I will write regularly via ordinary mail and as many of these as I can get forms for. They are rationed also. Well, bye bye for the present, dear. All my love. As ever. Roger XXXX.